So I want to welcome you. This is a space for families who want to understand more about their children, about themselves, and about what it really means to thrive, right? Because we know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? So as things are happening with our kiddos, and it's like, how do we know, where did they get this? Where did they learn this? And of course, some of our kids, we didn't teach these things, or we don't know ourselves how it feels, whether it be ADHD or anxiety, but maybe we're here to learn. So, whatever brought you here today, you belong in this conversation and welcome. So, why does this matter, right? Families feel stuck day after day. The same struggles repeat. It can feel like no matter what you try, it's just nothing seems to shift. Things feel harder than they should, right? Simple tasks become battles, routines fall apart. The gap between what you expect and what actually happens grows wider and wider. And then the confusion about why. Without understanding the root cause, it's nearly impossible to find the right path forward. And you're not imagining it. And you are not alone in feeling this way. And the common belief is that mental health equals happiness, right? You're only healthy if you're happy. And yes, a lot of us grew up believing that it's just happy, calm, content most of the time, right? And I hear that from a lot of parents. I just want my kid to be happy. Well, it's a lot more than that, right? And it's not reality either. And the myth, of course, is that if there's any struggle, that would signal that something is wrong. When a child is struggling emotionally, behaviorally, academically, the instinct is to believe that something must be broken or must be wrong with them or with the family, right? Just do things differently is the thing, right? And mental health is not the absence of difficult emotions. It is the ability to experience the full range of human feelings, right? And still move forward. The reality is that it happens. It's not, the reality is it's not constant happiness, right? It's expecting happiness all the time. It's an impossible standard, right? For not only children, but especially for adults, right? And the reality is that there is a full range of emotions from sadness to frustration to anxiety, anger, and all are part of a healthy emotional life, not signs of failure. And the true reality is that true mental wellness is about bouncing back, learning, and growing, right? Hence, resilience, not about never struggling or perfection. Who wouldn't want that, right? But that's not right reality. And I want to offer everyone a different perspective, right? Struggle does not mean failure. When your child struggles, it's not a sign that you have failed as a parent or that they have failed as a person. Struggle is information, it's not a verdict. Struggle is part of growth. Every meaningful skill, whether it is emotional regulation, focus, or resilience, is built through challenge. The struggle is where the learning happens. Reframing struggle as a natural part of development changes everything about how we respond to it. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change, right? And that's just the way it is, right? Can we look at a different perspective and just maybe understand? The term, the idea, the concept of mental health is broad. It's not a single component. It encompasses all of the following, right? Emotions, the full spectrum, joy, sadness, fear, excitement, all have a place in a healthy inner life. Stress, which is normal response to any challenge. Learning to navigate it, it's a core life skill. And then frustration, right? The signals that something matters. It is not a problem to eliminate. It is a signal to understand. And recovery, the ability to recover after a hard moment is one of the most important mental skills of all, right? If we can recover, if we can bounce back, we're good. And then support. No one builds mental wellness alone. Connection and support are foundational, not optional. So this may show up as difficulty getting started, right? Tasks that seem simple to you may feel impossible to begin for your child. Homework, chores, morning routines all become battles. Trouble staying organized, things get lost, forgotten, or left incomplete. It looks like carelessness, but often runs much deeper. Overwhelm. A small request triggers a big shutdown. The brain hits a wall and can no longer process what is being asked. big reactions. Emotions come out larger than the situation seems to call for. Tears, anger, withdrawal, or complete shutdown. These are the fun ones, right? And then, these are the ones that seem so frustrating, right? And confusing too, especially if we don't understand or we don't like, where did all this start? And it may not be what was going on in that moment. It may have started, when school started, or it may have started, I didn't sleep or I didn't eat or however, right? Recognizing them is the first step. And again, when behavior is confusing or frustrating, our minds are going to reach for the most available explanation, right? Even when it's not the right one. And sometimes it's not even fair to be blaming that thing. We may assume they're just not trying, right? It looks like effort is missing. So we assume that the child simply doesn't care enough to try. And it may really look like that. They are being lazy, right? When a child avoids tasks, laziness feels like the obvious explanation, but avoidance is rarely about laziness, right? Especially if there's that regret or that shame stuff that comes in for a lot of our kiddos with ADHD after. They should know how to do this, right? We assume that because a child has done something before, they can do it all the time, especially under pressure. So beneath the surface, there's almost always something more going on, right? Understanding this changes everything. It may be that the brain is overwhelmed. When the nervous system is flooded, the thinking brain goes offline. It's that flipping of the lid, right? This is biology. It's not defiance. It may be that their skills are still developing. Executive function, emotional regulation, and planning skills develop well into the mid-20s. Children are not behind, they're just still building. And when we have ADHD or other executive function challenges, anxiety, however, that there's a little bit more of that delay in our executive function skills. We can totally catch ourselves up, right? Or our kid is up. It may be the support that's needed. The missing piece is not motivation or discipline. It is a right kind of scaffolding and support that they need. I love this, right? A key shift is to reframe, right? This is not just behavior. What we see on the surface, the outbursts, the avoidance, the shutdown, is only the tip of the iceberg. Responding only to that behavior misses the point entirely, right? And a lot of times you don't understand, right? We don't understand if we're paying attention to just that tip. So behavior is communication, right? And beneath every challenging behavior are skills that are still being built, right? Or there's some misunderstanding. So the ability to regulate emotions, manage time, tolerate frustration, and to ask for help. These are all learnable with the right support. So when we shift from what is wrong with my child to what skills does my child need? Where does my child need me? How can I truly support? That's going to change everything. These are not rare or unusual struggles, right? They show up in homes everywhere, every single day, such as getting started or initiating tasks, right? Especially ones that feel hard or boring. That's going to require significant mental energy that many children haven't yet learned to access, right? And even some of us as adults, right? Sometimes it's hard. If I really have that, one thing that I want to get done, it might be easier, but there's so much of the shoulds and so much of the other things that we need to get taken care of. And as parents, we may not only have one child, right? And we might have a grown child, or we might have other, young ones. Following through, starting is just one thing. Finishing is another. Sustaining effort through a task to completion is a skill that takes years to develop. Managing time. Time feels abstract, to many children and us adults too. Without concrete tools and support, managing it feels impossible, right? Not because they don't care, but because the skill isn't there yet, right? A lot of us have the timer that just doesn't work, right? We think it's going to take 30 minutes and actually it takes 2 hours, or 2 hours and it takes 10 minutes, right? And then handling frustration. Frustration tolerance is a muscle. Without practice and support, even the small obstacles can feel insurmountable and trigger big reactions. Real progress doesn't come from pushing harder or expecting more, right? It comes from understanding what is underneath, removing unnecessary barriers to reduce overwhelm, and building small, sustainable supports create lasting change over time. I wish I was there in the water right now. So you're not alone. One in five children experience a mental health challenge significant enough to impact daily functioning. Right. And if your child is struggling, you know how this is. And you might think you're the only one, right? Most families experience some version of these struggles. They just don't talk about it openly, right? This is where nowadays we are talking about these things a lot more, but usually it's still not the case completely. And if you only leave with one pearl today, I want you to know that mental health is 100% supportable. Every single one of these challenges is something that can be understood, addressed, and improved with the right support. This is common, this is real, and this is absolutely supportable. Small changes create momentum. You don't need a complete overhaul, one small shift, right? In how you respond, how you set up a routine, how you talk about a hard moment. This can bring just a change to the entire dynamic in your home, right? If we can just simply consider that maybe this may not be on purpose. Progress builds over time. Change is rarely, dramatic or instant, but small, consistent steps compound. What feels like a tiny shift today may become a new pattern next month and a transformed family dynamic next year. Imagine that. So again, one small shift, a single change in an approach or a response, just consider the other perspective. A new pattern, repeat it consistently, becomes a habit, right? And then we have the momentum. Of course, when there's success, it's going to breed success and it'll be easier to try something else. And then lasting change, right? The family dynamic transforms over time, right? When we start to really understand and support each other, it makes a huge difference. So where do we start? Right? You don't have to solve everything at once. Here's a simple, grounded place to begin. Start with awareness. Before you can change anything, you need to see it clearly, right? Begin by simply noticing without judgment what is happening in your home, right? Is it getting started? Is it, just the worry? Sorry about that if that was blocking. And then noticing, the patterns, right? When do the hard moments happen? What triggers them? What makes them better or worse? Patterns reveal the underlying needs. I want you to pick one area to focus on and choose one challenge, right? Not, just one. I know we can say so many things, right? And we want to commit to understanding it more deeply before we move on. Because that focus creates traction, right? We come and we're like, we know all of these things are wrong, but let's focus on one thing. So next steps, right? I'm here and I want to invite you guys. So it's anchored, of course, right? The business name, but it's like the anchored method, right? It's how do we break things down? And the anchor, the purpose of the anchor is to be able to pick it up and put it where it serves us, right? And what we want to be doing, inside the community, and of course, if we decide to be part of the circle, it's going to be just what are the practical skills that we can use in real life starting today? Right? So that way we can move from overwhelm to clarity, right? Understanding what may actually be happening beneath the everyday struggles. What are the the skills, right? What are the simple tools and strategies that we can start to begin to use? And even if it's something that didn't work in the past, let's try it, right? It may be now that we're thinking differently, now that we're considering, it may not be on purpose or however it is, we can do it differently. And then real life application, right? Support designed for the real, the busy, the imperfect reality of family life, right? There's no perfect in any of this. So you're invited to continue, right? This work does not have to be done alone. You're invited to continue to the conversation inside the anchored community through free monthly webinars, practical resources, and ongoing education for families navigating ADHD, executive function challenges, and more. And this QR code is for Anchored Circle, right? And that's going to be more of access, right, to the foundations course that I've created for executive function skills. We're going to have monthly group coaching and office hours, and that way we go forward, right? Next, we'll start with kind of working memory and then move on to task initiation, and that way you're going to be leaving with practical strategies you can use at home, and of course, ongoing support and connection. You don't have to figure this out on your own. right? Support is here when you're ready. Whether you continue through the free anchored community or you decide later, like, you know what, I want to go a little bit deeper in with the group, that can be circle, or of course, I'm here for the one-on-ones. But I'd love to continue this journey with you. So start small, one conversation, one shift, one moment of understanding. That's enough to begin. Stay curious. Replace judgment with curiosity. Ask what is happening instead of what is wrong. Build strong. Strong families are built through small, intentional choices made with patience, support, and a willingness to keep growing. Thank you for being here. The fact that you showed up today says everything about the kind of parent, caregiver, or educator you are. Thank you.